I stepped out of the car and walked towards a fast-flowing stream. Vincent Vanzetti was standing beside the stream, his hands deep in his sheepskin coat pockets, his eyes gazing sightlessly at the water. "What happened?" he asked without looking up. "Peter was murdered by a person unknown." "Convenient for you," he growled. "It's the truth," I insisted. Slowly, Vincent Vanzetti turned his head. While narrowing his eyes and with a look of anger on his face, he appraised me. "As I see it, you look good for Peter's murder. You rescued the psychiatrist. Peter tried to stop you. You put a bullet into him. You have form for putting bullets into people." "Once," I reminded him. "I've only shot one person, and that was in self-defense. As for Peter, the police checked my gun. I'm in the clear." "You had a second gun," Vanzetti said, concocting a theory to fit his own grief-stricken logic. "No," I shook my head. "No second gun." I took a step towards Vincent Vanzetti, then halted when the Man Mountain took a step towards me. While rubbing my arms through the light fabric of my blouse in an effort to fight off the chill of the late afternoon, I added, "I'm sorry about the murder. I'm sorry about Peter. But I think someone was out to murder him before I arrived on the scene." "Who and why?" Vanzetti asked. He stared at me with his mouth slightly open, his eyes thoughtful, his forefinger and thumb caressing the corners of his mustache. Peter had no enemies, at least none that would resort to murder. I swallowed, licked my dry lips, then said, "You must have plenty." Now Vanzetti's bloodshot eyes narrowed. From the corner of my eye, I caught sight of the Man Mountain's gun as it glinted in the fading sunlight. "Are you blaming me for Peter's death?" Vanzetti ground out through clenched teeth. "I'm not blaming you. All I'm saying is we should keep an open mind and examine all the possibilities." I glanced at Vanzetti. I glanced at the Man Mountain and his gun. Wheaty was still in the car. In a moment of panic, I thought about running to the car and overpowering him. However, common sense prevailed, and I decided to hold my ground and rely on my silver tongue. A man confronted me just before Peter was murdered. I described George and the offer of £10,000. "I believe this man murdered your brother." Vanzetti scoffed. He turned his back on me and gazed down the hillside towards the ruins of a medieval castle. "That description means nothing to me. You could have pulled the description and the name out of thin air." "It's the truth, Mr. Vanzetti. I swear to you I did not kill your brother." Vanzetti stared at the Man Mountain. He nodded, imperceptibly, and the Man Mountain leveled his gun, a Magnum .44, at me. Slowly and deliberately, Vanzetti said, "Someone's got to pay for Peter's death, and right now that someone is you." "If you murder me, Peter's killer will walk free. Do you really want that?" "Someone is going to take the drop for Peter's death, and right now I'd be happy if that someone was you. Right now, I figure you for the murder, and that's how I'll look at it until proved otherwise. You have 48 hours to prove your innocence and deliver the guilty party." Vanzetti walked away from me towards his car, a sleek, slightly menacing Maserati Bora. He nodded at the Man Mountain, and the gunman slipped his gun into its holster under his left armpit. Meanwhile, I let out a long, slow breath. Despite the chill of the afternoon, my blouse was clinging to my back and my forehead was moist with sweat. Every muscle in my body ached through tension, and I found it difficult to gather my thoughts together. The metallic taste of fear lined my mouth. I realized that I was playing with the big boys and that these boys took no prisoners. 48 hours, Vanzetti called out over his shoulder. "Then my boys will call on you again."